So next, let's validate the dates. Now, there already exists quite a bit of logic to validate dates in our viewer controller. So if you scroll down to about line 70 or so, you'll see that we have this information that retrieves the dates from our plot controls, or rather this is initializing the dates for our plot controls. And we're doing a lot of work here already to figure out what the valid range of those controls is. So rather than duplicate this, what we're going to do is extract it into a helper function and then replace this to use the helper function and also use the same helper function in our REST API to validate our dates. So let's open up helpers.py, and since we'll be working with dates, I'm going to import the datetime module. And then go back to the bottom, and here we'll put slightly modified, but this function is based on that other logic. The names of the variables have been changed in a lot of cases to make it more generic, whereas in the viewer they were a little more specific to where they were being used there. So let's now go back to the viewer function and have it use this. So we'll go back to viewer. First we'll import the new function. In helpers, it's going to be called the compute, or it is called rather, compute dates for product. I'll just drop that down since that line is a little too long. And we'll go back down. What we want to do is replace all of this logic with a call to that function. So replace all of this logic here with a call to that function. And then we want to update our parameterization of the date pickers to use that return value to get that information. Right here. Okay, so this helper function returns all the same parameters but in the form of a dictionary. So we just need to retrieve those values from the dictionary. Let's go test viewer really quick to make sure it's still functioning properly. Looks like Tethys was still restarting. Go to the viewer, and this all happens before the viewer loads. So yes, date range, yeah, it doesn't go before 2000, February 24th. And the end date is today because it's still ongoing. Okay, so that looks like that's functioning properly. So let's go now implement the validation in our REST API controller. First, we'll take care of our imports. Import datetime as DT, and then from helpers, import compute dates for product. And add that right below our other validation logic. And essentially what we're doing is just calling that compute dates for product to get the proper date range, and then we test to make sure that our dates given through the REST API fall within that range. And we provide the appropriate message back with a bad request response if it's not provided correctly. Let's go back to Postman and test. So first, without any of the dates turned on, it looks like Tethys is still restarting whenever you see that refuse to connect message. Here we go. So it looks like it is using some default dates if we don't provide dates, which is similar to the plot function. So let's turn this on. And first we'll start with a date that is provided there, which should work. Then let's start with a date that is greater than the end date, which would be any day past today, right? So for me, that is June 16th would work. Okay, the date June 16th is not a valid start date. It must occur between these dates. Okay, So let me put that back to February, or let's set that now before the acceptable time range, so 1998, maybe June 16th, just keep it consistent. Okay, same thing. Great. So now let's just go back to what it was before. So that worked properly. Let's check the end date. Same thing. We'll do after June 16th. Be sure to set that after the date when you're taking this course. Not a valid date. And if we change that to 1998 maybe. Also not valid. Excellent. Let's go ahead and try one other test and make them the same. And that should work. We're basically just wanting 1 day of data. And let's also try a different data format. So maybe I do 02/15/2020. Invalid date format, please use this. Great. So we've made it pretty dummy proof. Let me just move this back to what it was before. And it's still working. So I feel good about that.